Morning, everyone. Welcome to the second presentation of the day, and a happy Sabbath to you all. Okay, so in this lesson, we are going to be looking at Daniel chapter 11, verses 40 to 45. Then we are going also to look at Daniel chapter 12, verses 1 to 4. So most of what I wanted to explain at the start of this presentation has been looked at in the previous presentation by Catherine and Elder Paminda. So I'm not going to dwell much explaining the first part of the presentation. We are going to pass through. Okay, so we are going to start by reading from the Bible. We are going to look at Daniel chapter 11, verse 40. I'm going to read through from verses 40 to 45. Then I'll give time for the translators to do that. Okay, so Daniel chapter 11, verse 40 says, and at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. Verse 41, he shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Moab, even Edom, and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. Verse 42, he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make away many. Verse 45 says, and he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountains, yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. So I'm not going to explain much on this because we know that, as Ellen White says, and according to this phrase, if you had, okay. Okay, so Ellen White explains this verse, Daniel chapter 11:40. When he explains that 1798 is the time of the end. According to GC 88356.2. So she explains that 1798 is the time of the end. Because this is when the unsealing started. So one thing that I want us to see is that we need to understand the waymarks, not only as a point, but as a period in time as well. So the unsealing started at the time of the end, which is 1798. Which is a point. So from 1798, we are in the time of the end. So whatever is going to happen on Daniel chapter 11, verse 40, going onwards, is happening at the time of the end. So Daniel chapter 11, verse 48 has been fulfilled 1798. When we see the battle that was there between the king of the north and the king of the south. So, yes. Okay. Okay, so I'm listening to the Spanish translation. So 1798, we know that Napoleon who was the king of France by that time, which you know France was the king of the south, and the king of the north was the papacy. So the king of the north received a deadly wound when the Pope was taken captive by Napoleon. And he later died. So this was the fulfillment of Daniel chapter 11, verse 40a. So we are supposed to find a point in time where Daniel chapter 11, 40b is fulfilled. And this has been an established effect in the movement. Like I've said, I'm not going to dwell much on it. We know that if you want to put history and prophecy to agree, we'll definitely get to 1989. Which we know that it is the time of the end. So Daniel chapter 11, 40b was fulfilled in 1989. When you see the retaliation of the king of the north to the king of the south. But we need to understand that the players at 1140A are not the same at 40B. Something has changed there. Something has changed.
Нічого се змінило.
So when you get to 1989, the king of the north is now a state and church power. So by the time we get to 1989, the king of the north will be the papacy plus the USA. And this one will be fighting against the king of the south, which is the USSR. So now we see that these two, the whole verse has been fulfilled now. 1140A, the whole of it. So now I want to get to the next verse, which is verse 41. So if you read verse 41, it says that you shall enter also into the glorious land. So now the question is, we have established that the king of the north is the papas and the USA. And we know that Ellen White in Review and Herald, May 2, 1893, May 2, 1893. Ellen White says that, I'm going to paraphrase this. Ellen White says that the United States of America is the glorious land. Now, we need to reconcile these two. We need to reconcile how USA can be the king of the north, and yet verse 41 says, the king of the north shall enter into the glorious land. Does it mean that the USA does it mean the USA is going to enter into itself? No. So what does it mean? So we are going to establish that, remember, the papacy was the former king of the north at 1798. And now the king of the north is now resurrecting. And we know that this one is a church power, the papacy. It needs a beast to ride on. So this is the reason. So for this reason, we are seeing the papacy working together with the USA to bring down the Soviet Union. So what it means that the king of the north shall enter into the glorious land shows that the USA has been defeated in a way. Or it has been conquered. So what is it that has conquered the United States of America? The United States has been taken over by the papacy. So does it mean that the United States is now a papal power? What does it mean to say that the United States have been conquered by the papacy? We know that the United States is a Protestant nation. So apostate Protestantism is equals to Babylon. Which means the mother and the daughters are one. So Protestant America is serving the purpose of the mother. So now the papacy has conquered the United States of America. Because we know that the papacy is Babylon. So from the time of the end, 1989, what the papacy has been doing was to try and control the beast. So by the time we get to 2001, which is our second Weimar, Protestantism has taken control of America. In trying to explain the fall of the Twin Towers, most evangelicals believe that it's because America was not integrating religion in its affairs. For by the time we get to 2001, America has been taken over by the evangelicals. So to me, this is what it means that which is said in verse 41, that the king of the north is going to enter into the glorious land. So when you're looking at these two, America and the papacy, which one is the king of the north? It is the papacy which is taken control of the beast. So the king of the north is in this case is not only one power, it is the papas in America, but the papas is an upper hand. So our second waymark is 2001, which goes in line with the arrival of the second angel's message. Which talks about Babylon, fallen Babylon. So now we want to see the third waymark, which is explained by Daniel chapter 11, verse 41. So Daniel chapter 11, 41 is talking about the king of the north entering into the glorious land. In the first part. And it says, many countries shall be overthrown. It goes on to talk about those who are going to be escaping. So when you're looking at Daniel chapter 11, verse 41, it is explaining the Sunday law. Then when you go from verse 42, we have read the verses before. It explains the events from the Sunday law. Until verse 45. But when you get to Daniel chapter 12, verse 1, it talks about the clause of probation when Michael was standing up. Okay, so now we have our 4 waymarks. And you're going to look at the 5th one. When Daniel is explaining about the troublous times that are going to befall the world. Let me read the verse. And it says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered. So it ends with the second coming. In verse 2, it explains that when the troublous times are come to an end, now we'll see the appearance of Christ. So from this line on the board, we have tried to see the 5 waymarks. And I know by just looking at the board work, someone will say, no, there are 6 waymarks there. Yes, somebody has just confirmed that there are 6 lines. Don't forget, we have said 1798 is the time of the end. And the time of the end is not only a point, but a period. And we are supposed to see also the fulfillment of Daniel chapter 11, 40b. And at that point, when the verse is fulfilled, it is the time of the end. So during the time of the end, the period of the time of the end, we have another time of the end when Daniel chapter 11, 40b is fulfilled. So now in this lesson, we are going to look at the period which is between 2001 and the Sunday Law. Specifically because this is where we are on the reform line. So the reason why we are looking at this time period is because we want to look at Daniel chapter 11, verse 41 specifically. Which we say Daniel chapter 11, 41 is the Sunday Law. So between the waymarks of 2001 and the Sunday Law, we have 2 sub-waymarks in between. We have Raphia and Panium. Raphia is the increase of knowledge of the Sunday Law, and Panium is the formalization. So we are going to see in this time period and establish where we are. So we have passed Panium. Raphia was 2019 and Panium was 2021. So we are in the year 2023. And 2021 is past us. So if I can locate where we are, we're almost here. We are between the period of Panium and Sunday Law. And we are approaching the Sunday Law. So if you go back to Daniel chapter 11, verse 41, it explains the events of the Sunday Law, or the things that are going to happen at the Sunday Law. So we want to go back to Daniel chapter 11, verse 41 and read it again. Okay, so I'm going to read it. It says, "He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But this shall escape out of his hand. Even Edom, and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. So we need to note that at the sun below here, Daniel is explaining what is going to happen. So Daniel is saying there are some who are going to be overthrown, and at that same time, some are going to escape. So we want to see who are those who are going to be overthrown and who are those who are going to escape. But verse 41 says, many countries shall be overthrown. But the second part of the verse talks about Edom, Moab, and Ammon. So using compare and contrast, remember verse 41, when it talks about the countries, it is italicized. So does it mean that this one, if you use compare and contrast, if those who are going to escape are people, what does it mean to those who are going to be overthrown? Are they countries? So using compare and contrast, it means those who are going to be overthrown are people, not countries. So for us to be able to explain those who are going to be overthrown, we are going to start with those who are going to escape. This will help us to understand those who are going to be overthrown. So let's go back to the verse again. So the verse starts to talk about Edom. Explaining those who are going to escape. And it says they shall escape out of his hand. So who is the his who is being talked about by the verse? It is the king of the north. Thank you. So these who are going to escape are going to escape out of his hand, which is the king of the north. So now we want to establish those who are going to escape first. And let's keep in mind that it says even Edom. So who is Edom? We are going to go back to the Bible and go back into history and establish who Edom was. So Genesis chapter 36, verse 1. Genesis 36, verse 1. The translators, you can make use of the notes. which is quote number 6 in the notes. It says, now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. So from this verse, and many other verses in the Bible, Edom is Esau. And who is Esau? Esau was the brother to Jacob. I'm not going to labor much to explain the history, but we know that Esau was the one who was entitled to the birthright. And he sold his birthright to his younger brother, Jacob. So we want to read a commentary from Ellen White. And hear what Ellen White has to say about Esau. We are going to read from Patriarchs and Prophets. It's PP 178.1. This is quote number 7 for the translators. So I'm going to read it. It says, Isaac made known to his sons these privileges and conditions, and plainly stated that Esau, as the eldest, was the one entitled to the birthright. But Esau had no love for devotion, no inclination to a religious life. The requirements that accompanied the spiritual birthright were an unwelcome and an even hateful restraint to him. The law of God, which was the condition of the divine covenant with Abraham, was regarded by Esau as a yoke of bondage. Bent on self-indulgence, he desired nothing so much as liberty to do as he pleased. To him, power and riches, feasting, reveling were happiness. He gloried in the unrestrained freedom of his wild, roving life. I'm going to end there. So if you are looking for this description that has been given about Esau, what name can you give for someone who has no love for devotion, who's not religious, who is into worldly things? Yes? Somebody says the Gentiles from the congregation? Anyone else? Okay, Sidra says Nathaniels. Yes. The word I'm looking for is an atheist. So this description that has been given about Esau, it shows that Esau or Edom is representing the atheist. Somebody who doesn't care about religion. Someone who's non-religious. So when the verse says even Edom, the word even means something that is not expected of. It's more like a surprise. That's even Edom. We are going to explain this further. Now we want to look at the next character that is pointed out in the verse. It talks also about Moab. If you are to go back to the Bible, okay, I'm going to write this coming backwards. Okay, let me write here, Moab. Who is Moab? Let's go back to Numbers 22, verse 5 and 6. Okay, before we go to Numbers, let's start with Genesis 19, verse 37. Let's start 19, verses 37 to 38. So that we try and establish where does Moab come from. So if you go back to our notes, it's quote number 8. And the firstborn bare a son and called his name Moab. Yeah, you can go on. And called his name Moab, and the same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. Verse 38 says, and the younger, she also bare a son and called his name Benami. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. So historically, when you're looking at the Moabites, these are the descendants of Lot and his daughter, the eldest daughter. And the same verse talks about the Moabite, the Ammonites as well, who are the descendants of Lot and his younger daughter. So we know the story from the Bible that when Sodom was destroyed, it was Lot and his daughters that were saved. And his two daughters planned that they want to preserve the seed of their father. And they deceived their father and slept with their father. And this is where we got the Moabites and the Ammonites. So when you go to Numbers chapter 22, verse 5 and 6, We are going to read it. It's quotation number 9, quote 9. So it says, he sent messengers therefore unto Balaam, the son of Boa, to Pethor, which is by the river of the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, behold, there is a people come out from Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me. Verse 6. Come now, therefore, I pray thee, cast me these people, for they are too many for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that I may smite them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I wot that he whom thou blessed is blessed, and he whom thou cursest is cursed. So here we are seeing a story when the Israelites were coming from Egypt. And they wanted to pass through the land of the Moabites. On their way to the promised land. And now Balak, who was the king of the Moabites, didn't want to give them access through his land. So what Balak did was to send messengers to Balaam so that he can curse the Israelites on his behalf. So Balak is the king of the Moabites. So do we think the Moabites was just like a single clan? Or did they grow up to be a big like nation or people? What are your thoughts? Natalie? Natalie is saying they grew up to be a nation. What type of a nation? Catherine, any thoughts? Any thoughts, Manjit?
They were a wicked nation, enemies of Israel.
Yeah, they were enemies of Israel and they were a wicked nation. So my question is, we need to figure out how the Moabite nation looked like. So this is the nation of the Moabites with their king Balak. But we need to know that there were individual clans here and families. Individual clans and families. Heads of families, heads of clans. So we have this clan with their heads, another one and another one and another one. These are all heads of clans and families. But they will have their overall king was Balak. So all these kings or these heads are reporting to Balak. So who is Balak? That is? Yeah, the king of the Moabites. So yes, is the king of the Moabites. Yes, thank you. So Balak is the king of kings. Like what Catherine has said. Remember, these are individual clans with their heads as well. So these are individual kings, but but they but they report to another king, a superior. So if you are looking at Balak, Balak is the king of the kings. So Balak is the king of kings. We are going to wait here and you will make an application of this. But before that, we want to look at the Ammonites. Remember, when the Bible mentions about the Moabites, it also mentions about the Ammonites. These are coming from the same root. So Balak is the king of the Moabites, but he sent messengers to Balaam. And the verse 5 explains where Balaam is from. So before we go to establish where Balaam is from, let's look at the person of Balaam. Who is Balaam? So the verse here is talking about cursing and blessing. So Balaam here, who is Balaam? He was a? Okay, so I'm going to take the first part from Mercy. Mercy said he was a prophet. Yes, so Balaam is a prophet. And this prophet here, you was sent unto by Balak to curse the children of Israel. So Balaam is a prophet. He's a prophet. And this prophet here, what type of a prophet is Balaam? Now we want to go into this context. When Balak sent of Balaam, what type of a prophet is Balaam? He's a false prophet. So when you're looking at Balaam, if we use our King James Version or most of the Bibles that you usually use, there's something that is not coming out from the KJV. So I'm going to use the Vulgate Bible. And look at the same verses. So this is quote 11 and 12. The same verse, Numbers chapter 22, verse 5 and 6. So it says, he sent therefore messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, a soothsayer, who dwelt by the river of the land of the children of Ammon. In the land of So the same verse, when you use the Vulgate Bible, it gives us more information of who Balaam is. The first thing, it tells us about the work that Balaam does. It's told us that Balaam is a soothsayer. What other name can we use for a soothsayer? Yeah, Curtis is saying something to do with witchcraft. So is it good or bad? So in other words, that person is a false prophet. So this verse clearly explains that Balaam is a false prophet. And where is the false prophet coming from? It's coming from the land of the children of Ammon. So if you are looking at this model here, from what we've established from the verses, a group of people who are represented by Moab in Daniel chapter 11, verse 41. So Moab is a symbol of the King of Kings. And the children of Ammon represents a false prophet. And Edom represents somebody who doesn't have any devotion, love for devotion, or someone who's not religious. And we have established that such a person is an atheist. And here the false prophet represents the children of Ammon. And here we have Balak, who is the king of the Moabites, who is the king of kings. So if you want to make an application at the end of the world, who is the king of kings? We can get that from our reform line. Who is the King of Kings? Sibri? Okay, Sibri is saying Jesus, but the clue is here on the line. Sorry? So Manjit is saying the Pope claims that he is the King of Kings, right? Remember, by the start of our reform line, at the time of the end, so from the time of the end, we see that there is a power that seeks to control the world. So the world, just like the Moabite nation, has different kings, individual kings, but those kings, they report or they kind of like being controlled by a super king who claims to be the King of Kings. And remember, what is the mandate of the papacy, the line of the counterfeit? Is to do what? Petrus? To copy? What else? Yes, imitate Christ, then what? Deceive, then what? And control the world. Thank you, Emma. And control the world. So the papacy at the end of the world is the King of Kings. So from this symbology of these three groups that have been mentioned in Daniel chapter 11, verse 41, we see that Edom represents the atheist. Then Moab represents the King of Kings, which is the papacy. And the children of Ammon represents a false prophet. So now we have a threefold union. So we have the atheist, we have the false prophet, we have the King of Kings. So now when the verse is saying, these shall escape out of his hand, it's talking about the people that are in the world escaping out of his hand. What does it mean? It means that the atheist, the false prophets, and the papacy, which is the King of Kings, has their own ideologies. And their ideologies are the ones that people are going to escape from. Who is a false prophet at the end of the world? It is apostate Protestantism. So apostate, So the apostate Protestants of America are the false prophets. Or spiritualism. So the people that are going to escape are going to escape from the hand of the papal ideologies or the ideologies of apostate Protestantism or spiritualism, or the ideologies of atheism. So all these three, they represent the mandate of the mother. They represent the mandate of the mother. Let's remember Revelation 17, chapter 17. It talks about the mother and the daughters being one. So the people that are going to escape from the influence and ideologies of the papacy, apostate Protestantism or spiritualism, as well as atheism. And when someone is escaping, someone is breaking free of the bondage. So they are breaking free from the bondage of these three. So if someone is breaking free, they are breaking free from something going somewhere. So where are they breaking to? So when they are breaking free out of these ideologies, which means they are breaking free, going somewhere, and where are they going? Which ideologies are they going to replace these ones they have held before? And remember, we said we are approaching the Sunday law. We are in the period of the agitation of the issues of the Sunday law. And remember, when you're talking about the repeating patterns, when the message is formalized here, remember, this is the formalization of the Sunday law, which means we are in the test. And the great test is going to end when you get to the Sunday law. So by the time we get to the Sunday law, this is where Daniel is saying some are going to be overthrown and some are going to escape. So the people who are going to escape out of these hands are going to escape here at the Sunday law. The same time when some are being overthrown. So an atheist is in the world. This is the world as well. And this one is the world as well. Remember, when God is calling people or gathering people, two calls are made. First the church, then the world, right? So if these who are going to escape are going to escape from the world, which means these who are going to be overthrown, they are going to be overthrown from where? From the church, right? So in the end of the world, which one is God's church? Who is God's church at the end of the world? Somebody said this movement. Natalie. Okay, Natalie is saying this movement or the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Okay, okay. So which is God's church at the end of the world? Is it the movement or the Seventh-day Adventist Church? It seems people this side they're agreeing that this is the movement. Remember, we said there are two calls that are made. First the church, then the world. So where are the Levites fitting in this model? Ellen White talks about the church of God, and it can never be Babylon. So if we don't include the Seventh-day Adventists into this, which means we are putting them in those group of people who are going to escape. Is that the case? Can it fit? No, it can't. Because Ellen White says the church of God can never be Babylon. So the Seventh-day Adventist church can never be Babylon. So it does not fit into these three groups. So those who are going to be overthrown are going to be overthrown from the Adventist cycle. So us, the Adventist people, fit into this group of people who are going to be overthrown at the Sunday law. Both the people who are in this movement and those in the conference church are the ones that are represented by the group of people who are going to be overthrown at the Sunday law. So many who are going to be overthrown are the Adventist people. So which perfectly suits the two calls, one to the church and one to the world. So many of us are going to be overthrown at the Sunday law. And the same message that is going to overthrow some is the same message that is going to allow others to escape. So all this is going to be happening at the Sunday law. So by the time we get to the Sunday law, which is the end of the test, And what are we being tested on? Remember, 2019 is the increase of knowledge of the Sunday law, which is feminism. And when you get to the formalization, it was now radical feminism. So is it enough for us to be tested with just the radical feminism? Remember the study that was done yesterday by Catherine? The world, there are some in the world that have a correct understanding of radical feminism. But there's something more they need to be on the right side. Remember, she talks about the three things. Going back to the line of the Millerites, is a parable of our line. So I'm going to write here. I get so confused with alpha and omega symbols. Okay, so the alpha, this one, the other one. So this one is the alpha. So the alpha history, which is the history of the Millerites. Okay, so she talks of the three things. So the testing issue of their time was slavery. But also the issue to do with the law of God, specifically the seventh day, was an issue. And they also had the 1850 charts. So the abolitionists of that time, they had a correct understanding about slavery. That slavery was bad, but it was not enough for them to be served. They needed to keep the correct day, which is the Sabbath, and they needed the charts to understand the message. In the same way, in the Omega history, which is us, for us not to be overthrown at the Sunday law, as Advent people, the testing message is gender equality. The world understands this. Some people in the world, but they don't have the lines and they don't have the reforms, which are the vows. So for us as Advent people to be on the right side on the Sunday law, we need this set here. And this is the same message that you're going to give to the world so that they can escape. Now the problem is we say that those who are going to overthrown are from the church. And the Church of God is made up of two groups, we know that. Us, the movement, and the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now the issue is the Seventh-day Adventist Church, when it comes to gender equality, they actually do the opposite of gender equality. They promote patriarchy and sexism, which can be seen in how they tackle the issues to do with marriage, even issues to do with women ordination. When you come to the lines, what is it that we learn from the lines? World War I and II, Pyrrhus, X-27, and all this is pointing to showing us the relationship between the mother and the daughter, which is Revelation 17. The Adventist people, they hold on to conspiracy theories. And this results in how they interpret Revelation chapter 17. So to them, when they are looking at the relationship between the papacy and the Protestants, to them, they see two groups that are like, that are friends of some sort. But us as a movement, we've learned through the lines that actually the mother and the daughter are not friends in any way. And we've learned this yesterday through the study with Catherine. And this can only be found through the study of the lines. When we come to the reforms, specifically looking at the vows, I'm not going to touch all the vows. We can just look at maybe the 2520. It's one of the things that we as the movement believes in. Which all the Advent people are supposed to believe in for them not to be overthrown at the Sunday law. But the conference church doesn't believe in this. And there are many other things that they don't believe in, which are part of our vows. The other one, which is so clear, is 2001. Which is the second waymark on our line. They don't believe in it either. Right now, we don't have gender equality as part of our vows. But which is one thing that we believe, which is central in this movement, they don't believe it as well. So when you're looking at this, all these things, it makes them like they're like setting up themselves up for overthrowing. So if you don't believe in these things, as Advent people, what we are doing, we are setting ourselves up to be overthrown at the Sunday law. If you go back to the model of Daniel chapter 2, the stone which represents God's people at the end of the world is cut from the mountain, which means the mountain is overthrown. And what is the stone going to do? It's going to hit the statue. And there's going to be some wheat from the statue. So the wheat is the people of God who are going to escape the world. The people who are going to escape the ideologies of apostate Protestantism as represented by the children of Ammon, and the people that are going to escape from the ideologies and philosophy of atheism.
Sorry, should spiritualism be under atheism?
And those who are going to escape the influences of the papacy.
I'm just, it's just a small point. Should spiritualism be under atheism? Not Protestantism.
This one?
Yeah.
Sorry. You are saying?
Should spiritualism be under atheism? We've got spiritualism with apostate Protestantism,
Mm-hmm.
but with the threefold union, we put spiritualism under atheism.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to put spiritualism on atheism. Do you think so? Okay, maybe we can discuss that later, if you don't mind. Okay, for now, I'll just leave it here for some reason. So from this study that we've just had, we've established from Daniel chapter 11, verse 40 up to 12, verse 2, in view of the spirit of prophecy, which said these things are going to be repeated. And Ellen White says the book that was sealed is the last part of Daniel chapter 11. Which has been unsealed from 1798 up to the second coming. And this is where we are approaching the Sunday law. And we have established who are the people who are mentioned in verse 41. Those who are going to be overthrown and those who are going to escape. We have used historical narratives and symbologies to establish that these, which means the people, are going to escape from the ideologies of the three groups that has been symbolized in the verse. And we have learned that these who are going to be overthrown is the church. And we have established also that these three, this set here, is going to result in some being overthrown and some escaping. And according to Daniel, the overthrowing and escaping is happening simultaneously at the standalone. So this is the end of the study this afternoon. I've tried to summarize what you have been learning from the start of the presentation. So we are going to pray to end the lesson. Let's pray. Dear God in heaven, we thank you this afternoon. We thank you for the Holy Sabbath. We thank you for being with us throughout the presentation. We thank you for opening up these messages every time that we need them. May you bless us as we are now approaching the Sunday law. May you bless us also that whatever we are learning, we're able to incorporate them and live according to that light. Bless everyone who has managed to join the presentation. And be with us all during this camp meeting. May you bless us as we are going for a break. And be with us as we come again for another study. We thank you for this is our humble prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.